Okay folks, video number 2. Alright, so we talked about it earlier. I'm going to fix these corners on this square, but I'll do it when it's out. I've got to take the shaft out. Because we're going to a Comet clutch and a bigger engine, I'm going to use this shaft with this outboard bearing. So, got to get this shaft out, get that sprocket off of there. Got to get these shivs out without destroying them. And another thing while we're thinking about it, there's 2 different types of these. The earlier models with the 9-horse, they have the clicker clutch. So when you pull on it, it goes click, 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 click. And if you're running down the road and you let off of it, that's what you hear. But then, when the Kohlers came along, they went to the, I think it's called a Saginaw, or it might be called, it's another name, but it's this one here. See how smooth? You don't hear no clicking. But it's got a clutch bearing in it, I think. I've never had one apart, but we are ready to find out. So, first thing you got to do is get the cotter pin out. And then you take 2 adjustable wrenches, put one on this square, one on this nut, and break it loose. There's the nut off. This front one comes right off. And as you can see, it's keyed, but this is a clutch bearing, okay? It goes only one direction. So that's how you get your high speed or your low speed, and they don't interfere. So they went to a clutch bearing later on. Okay, we've got that one off. Now the little one, now there's a spacer here too. And it's also got a cut in it for the key, okay? Now, there's a set screw right here. I've done loosened it, but you take that set screw out, and this particular shiv is cone shaped. It has been bored with a tapered reamer to accommodate this cone that's right under there, so that when you tighten it up with your nut out here, it'll squeeze down and it won't move. That keeps this shaft from moving. It keeps the sprocket from moving. Keeps everything where it needs to be. For those you don't know, these right here adjust your bearing race. So generally you don't ever have to mess with them. They have the race sets against it. So your Timken bearing that's inside here, behind this seal, you can, when you tighten all this up, then you put the preload on here just like you would a front wheel bearing. These are what holds it in place. Instead of it being a staked area, it's just set screws with points. So when you tighten them up, it moves the race forward. If you had some slop, you could eliminate the slop. Okay. Now this one has got a spacer in here that's foreign. I have never seen one like it. It's too large. So that makes this going to be something, it may not work. May not be able to get it apart. But you take, this is a ball joint separator. You know, they make 2 different kinds. This is a tie rod separator. See how much narrower it is? Now this is how you get your front tie rods off your car. You can use this to knock them out. But your ball joint separator is the best way to keep from destroying this. If you put a puller here, this is too thin, this area, and it'll just crumple the heck out of it. And it looks like somebody may have at one time right there put a puller on it and put a dent in it. So that's easily fixed. But this is the best way to do it without destroying it. I always put the curve out. And there it is. It's that easy. It takes that right off. And if you'll notice here, this is cone shaped. That is special to the King Midget transmission. And then, got to get the keyway off. take a screwdriver and a hammer and peck till it comes up out of the hole. Ain't gonna happen for me. Well, who doggy? We'll go the other direction. There we go. Alright. Gotta get the key off so you can drive the shaft out. So if you're wanting to change a shaft, or if you're wanting to change a bearing, or if you want to fix the sprocket, it's in that spacer. Don't forget to put it back. And then that's a spacer also, but that's your seal ride. That's what your seal ride's on, is that spacer right there. So that's the one you'll put back with a Comet clutch. So then once you've got it all that apart, just take a rubber hammer, and normally that drives out of there. That ain't happening. Oh, another thing to talk about. This chain, it's an endless chain. It don't have a master in it. And usually they don't ever give you any trouble because these little cars don't have enough mileage on them. But one boy in the club, Alan Day, he put a lot of miles on his car, and his chain finally, these rollers finally just cracked to pieces and fell apart. And about destroyed his transmission. So, but I mean, he's been in every state. He's drove the whiz out of it. So, probably never have that much trouble, have that kind of trouble. But it's something to think about. Check your chain if you're going to have it apart, and make sure if you're going to change it, get a good chain. Don't get a cheapo chain. All right, we'll try this one more time. If it don't happen, then I'll do something else. There we go. There we are. Now, the reason they were tight is that front one's got a knurl on it. See the knurl right there? That's the knurl. Now, this spacer goes in there too. That also keeps you from pulling this shaft through the transmission. If you get everything too tight, and you're supposed to load the bearings as if you was loading the bearings on the front wheel, that's as tight as it needs to be. If you get it too tight, then it tries to pull through itself, and then what will happen, the chain will start riding here and start binding. And just remember, if you're running stock, well, if you're running stock or modified, you don't want any resistance the best you can do, because every piece of resistance is slowing your car down. So anyway, that's how you take the shaft out of the transmission. And I guess on the next one, I'll do a little bit about how I fix the square, put the new shaft in, and put a Comet clutch on. Then the transmission will be ready to go back in the car. And then we'll do the lineup like I have done in previous videos. And then I have to make motor mounts for the 22, and so where it'll be lined up correctly so the belt will wire nicely, and then we'll go to wiring. Anyway, hope this is helpful. Take care. See ya.